Hello, good evening everyone. Welcome to another series from MD Bootstrap. And today we're gonna learn how to use Vue.js, one of the fastest growing framework recently. So perhaps not the biggest one yet, but definitely the fastest growing in the recent days. So I hope you're gonna see today why it is like that and why is it getting so much traction in recent months. As always, we are streaming to two platforms, Facebook and YouTube simultaneously. So let's just wait a few more seconds for others to join and we will start shortly. I want to show you what we're gonna build today. So let me just show you a quick look. And by the way, this is the link to the tutorial which we're gonna follow today, which I made for you. And so you can also do it later on offline if you wish so, or if you miss something. Then just do not hesitate and just go and follow that one. Oh, someone is sending me like a ton of hacks. Thank you very much. Not sure who is that, but thank you. I really appreciate that. Hello, Vladimir. Good to see you again. So I'm happy to see you guys. Now, as I mentioned, what we're gonna build today is this kind of app. So within an hour, I'm about to create this real application which will show us how to use different options in Vue. So we're gonna get to know how to create components, how to create events, how to emit events, how to capture them, and so on and so on. Let me just turn off fan here. Okay, I see that people are still joining, so let me just start with a little bit of history for the Vue. So there are a few key facts about Vue.js which are interesting for sure. I would even say important to know. And the one is that unlike the React or Angular, it's not backed by some huge corporation like Facebook or Google. So as you guys may know, React is mostly backed up by Facebook, so they are the one who are supporting it, and Google created an Angular. So this kind of explain why they are getting so much traction and why they're so popular, because obviously the all giants corporation stands behind them, but when it comes to Vue.js, it isn't supported by any of these huge corporates, which is a big thing, I believe, right? To create such a famous network, a famous framework, or actually leap to without that kind of support. But that obviously doesn't mean that React or Angular are wrong, or there's something wrong about them. They are just different. But obviously you can imagine that it's way easier if someone like Facebook or Google just mention about you, then obviously everyone is talking about it. So these are corporations, these are companies which you probably know, like Twitter, Pinterest, Codecademy, Google, PayPal, Airbnb, and so on, which are using Vue to some extent. That obviously doesn't mean that the main page of these companies are built with Vue, but some components, some elements are. So I believe it's a really nice portfolio for such a young project. Okay, guys. So let's start with a proper part of our tutorial. So what are the prerequisites for today? So what you have to know, what you should know if you would like to get the most of this tutorial out of it for you. So obviously you should have some background in JavaScript. You should understand the main concept like objects, arrays, conditionals, and so on and so on. But if you've been with me in our previous webinars, then that we have it covered. Same applies to HTML and CSS and NPM. And why NPM? And this is because there are two ways to install Vue in our project. So one is via NPM and the other one is via Vue CLI. And I'm gonna show you today the next one, as this is much easier to do. So yeah, without further ado, let's just start with the installation. So let's go to Vue CLI installation. So since you're already familiar with NPM, Node Package Manager, you know what we have to do. So we will just use this command npm install -g for global at Vue /CLI, which is gonna install this CLI command line interface, Vue command line interface for us. And this is what we're gonna use to create our first project. So we're gonna give it some time to install. It should be quite fast. Actually, I have already installed it before, but I want you to see the whole flow and how it works. So as I mentioned, today we're gonna build this kind of app. So this is To-Do app, which is listing our, it's actually not To-Do apps, it's agenda. So it has some, it has agenda. So it has some events in it. Each event has some time, some title, and two optional fields, which are location and description. So based on that, we're gonna build our app. As you can see, you can remove them, you can add new, and that's what we're gonna be doing right now. Okay, let's have a look. This one is getting installed. So by the way, let me just remind you that if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact. Please don't hesitate to post them actually on Facebook or YouTube, and if they are related anyhow to subject, which is Vue, obviously I'm gonna answer them directly. And if they are if you want to ask me anything else related to programming, IT, or whatsoever, then I will be happy to answer, but then I will just do it after this learning part. Okay, our npm is installed. Vue CLI is installed via npm. So let me create a directory here, call it Vue workspace. So this is where we're gonna work, and then let's create a project. So we're gonna use this Vue create my dash project, or let's call it agenda. So this will ask us a few questions. I'm gonna just accept the default. So it's asking us whether we want to use ESLint and Babel as default transpiler. So we're just gonna accept it. Obviously, if you want to use something else, you can. You're free to do so. So this will initialize a project for us. So this will create a new empty project for that. But what we're also gonna do today, we are also gonna add this MD Bootstrap library, as this is very easy, and this will just give us a nice looking element to our app. So I'm just gonna go to quick start, and again you can already see how using Vue is easy. There is a question. Does anyone know how long this tutorial will be? Yeah, Ashutosh, it's gonna take about 1 hour. I will just keep it short. So within 1 hour, we're gonna do everything. And if you won't be able to watch the entire tutorial, don't worry. We are recording that, so it will be available on YouTube to replay. So stay as long as you can, and then you will be able to review it afterwards. Okay, guys. So now. As you can see, this Vue CLI makes it very, very easy because we already have this project here. I'm gonna open this in Visual Studio Code for you. And here you have ready to go setup. So this is a project. This is a project, and let me show you. Let's run npm run serve for all of you which doesn't know what it does. It's running this script here, which is defined in package.json, and it is just starting our server. So you can see that our server is actually running. And what is really cool, look at this, it's already creating it's really creating this local server for us. So this one which we can access from our machine, but also the network one. So if we are in the network working in the office, for example, and colleagues of ours is working in the next to us, he can also access project on our machine because it's using this this IP of our machine. And if you have an external IP, that will also be posted to the internet directly. There is a question: what is the command bash to install Vue from git bash? Yeah, this is the same as you've seen here. So okay, let me just open this one so we don't lose it, and let me provide you this installation. So this is installation, and this is npm if you use it, right? If you don't, you need to install Node first. So you need to have Node installed first, and then it will work. Not sure about the git bash. I'm not sure whether it's compatible. If not, use just the command line. Okay, guys, so this is our project. Look at that. It's already up and running. So let's have a quick look at the structure of our project. I'm going to enlarge this for you. So what we have here, a public node modules, obviously, we should know by now, it's npm dependencies. So they are all installed here, including our Vue. So it's been installed and all the dependencies. Then we have a public folder, which is place where we store our assets, like images, whatever we want to expose to the world. So it should land here. Then we have a source, which will be, and this will be place where we're gonna store a source for our application. And then and here is the main app.vue file. Main.js file. This is like a main starting point, and app.vue, which is like a starting component. So as you can see here, this is a starting point to our application. This is what is getting, what is being started at the very beginning, and it's rendering this our first component, which is called app. So it's mounting this, and then from this place we can create our app, and this app has a single component. We're going to talk about components shortly. Don't worry if you don't understand it now, just for your information. So under components, we're going to store our components, and we have one component by now. So as you can see already, or actually let's finish the folder structure. So assets, so all the assets like pictures and so on. And other than that, we have few configuration files, which I'm not gonna go into much details today because this is not crucial for you, not crucial for this tutorial to start with. So now when we talk about the folder structure, let's have a look at the structure of our app.vue file. So these .vue files are characteristics for Vue application, and each file consists of 3 main parts. So you can see them here. Let me close this one for a second and enlarge this for you. Whoops. So we have a template part. So this is like our HTML here. So this is one thing. Secondly, we have this script over here. So this is our logic. This is where the logic happens to our application, and at the end we have our styles here. So this might be a little bit new to you. Hello, Nati. This might be a little bit new. This might be even a little bit shocking for you at this moment, because until now we've always separated the styles and and JS. So far we've been learning that we should keep it separate, and this is actually true. But this is the concept of these frameworks like Vue.js and React and so on, that they are basing on components, and they are using this. Each component has its own script, template, and styles. That obviously doesn't mean that we're gonna keep the whole styles in here. Usually what's gonna happen is we're gonna have a file with all the generic styles, but what we want to do is we want to keep here some styles which are specific for that component. Okay, so now let me add quickly this MD bootstrap here, so you're gonna see how easy it is to add something to our project. So we're just gonna add, this is so-called plugins. So we're gonna use this option Vue add. So here we use the Vue create to create a new project, and here we're gonna use a Vue add, and we're gonna provide a plugin name. So Vue add MDB. It's gonna ask me a couple of questions, and again I'm gonna go with defaults as this ain't important for us at the moment to go into details, but we're gonna just set this is new app. We want to use this basic version. It's asking whether we're going to use CSS or SCSS. Usually we will go with SCSS if you are creating a bigger project, but now we're just going to go with CSS because we don't need it. It's asking us, do we want to add the Roboto, because MDB is like material design version of Bootstrap, and material design uses Roboto, so yeah, why not? Do we want to use Font Awesome? Obviously, because we're going to use them in our project, and it's installing to us all the dependencies. So then again, you can already see how easy it is that you don't have to add anything by yourself. Here you can see there is this import. So this is how you can import fonts into your style sheet. Yeah, and voila. And this is done by now. So let's just run it again. And let's see how it looks like. So now it's changed because this plugin installed replaced this app view, this app view over here. Okay, guys. So now let's get back to our tutorial and let's just follow the steps. So let's start. Getting started is what we've just done here. So you can either download the project here from the Git repository and use predefined, or you can do it as we just did with starting a new, creating new project using a CLI. So what we just discussed is that we have this app view file and we have this template, scripts, and styles. So now let's move to components overview, because this is a very important concept for Vue. For Vue.js, because this is what makes this libraries so easy to use. This is this like, if you are familiar with object-oriented programming, it's like pretty much the same. So it brings to us this concept of components which are reusable, right? So when we want to create a sample, component, we can reuse it in different places just by calling this component. So let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at this example now, and let's create some components. So let's start with, okay, let me just make it a little bit smaller so I could work on that. So we already have one component here and this main component. So let's oh no, actually this is the old one, so let me remove this one. This was the one which was created with the original app. So this is main component app view, and this consists of these three parts. So now, first important thing to remember when it comes to Vue is that our template it can contain only single root element. What does it mean? Look at this. We have this div here, and everything goes inside it, right? So we have all of that going here. And if I would like to create some other element here, like some heading, for example, what's gonna happen is that I'm gonna get this error here. See? So this ng-serve option is automatically compiling our code and showing us all the issues, all the errors which are happening. So it complains that this template should contain exact only one root element. So this is what I just was telling to you. So now we have these two elements, div and a heading. So, and it's complaining about this one. So we have to put our h2 heading inside our div. And if we check a preview here, hold on. No such file, index.js. Okay, this is because this is gone. Okay. Routes. Okay. This is for router. Hold on, because I removed this hello world. Okay, let me do it. Let me do it differently. So I removed this hello world, and apparently there are some connection to it. So let me just restore it. Okay, so I just restore it now, and now it's working fine. And we have this heading over here, the one which we just added. Okay, now the another important thing about the Vue.js is so-called interpolation. So let's have a look at this one here. Hold on. I need to router store. So let's go to app view, and now let's do something like this. After this export, or actually inside this export default, after the name, I'm gonna add some something which is called data, and I'm gonna return, here a message like this. So message, this is my message. Okay, I'm gonna save it now. And now if we want to return something from our script part to our template, what we have to do is we have to use this interpolation. Message is defined but never used. Hold on. It's here. Why is it complaining about that one? Hold on. We use it here. data, and this one should we put it like this? No, it doesn't. Okay, so for some reason it's not getting interpolated. Hold on, let me give me one more sec. Let's do it like this. Main, we're gonna rewrite it again. Okay, so now we have here data, message, and here we have this interpolation. Okay, now it works fine. So again, coming back, so this is our script part, right? So this is place where we are, so this is place where we put our logic. Oops, sorry for that. It's Windows messing up with my Windows. So here is data for our components, and we put some JS over here. So this is message, and we are using this variable over here. In that way, we can easily connect some output from our scripts into our HTML template, which is again very easy because as you can remember, as you can imagine, if we were to do the same in normal JS, we would have to use a DOM manipulation, right? So we would have to do this kind of like DOM, document, get element by ID, get this h3, and then update its state over here, which is obviously much more complicated. And now every time we change this one, because we can have some logic here, which you're gonna see in a few seconds. If we're gonna have some logic here to change this one, it will automatically change it on our front end. So it will change this message over here. Okay, so this is interpolation, and then obviously our styles, which are being applied over here. So to summarize, this script part is important for each component for a few reasons, because this is place where we can export our component and define its name. So when we're gonna create new component, this is like app component, but we're gonna create this hello world. Then this is a place where we can name it and export it. We can list external components, so we're gonna say it soon when we're gonna use, if we want to use this component hello world inside this app, we will have to import it here. We define the attributes like that, and we define JavaScript functions, which you're gonna see soon. Okay, so another important and very cool feature about Vue.js are these attributes. So for example, look at this one. So if I want to make this paragraph, or actually heading, sorry, if you want to have this heading conditionally visible, right? So depending on the variable, I want to make it either visible or not. Then what I can easily do, I can just say something like that. V if equals to, and here I'm gonna put the name of the variable, visible, and here I'm gonna create this variable. So I'm gonna add visible.true. So now this heading is visible, but if I'm gonna change it to false, as you can see, it immediately disappears. And this is again this is again a very powerful option for Vue, and I hope you can slowly getting this feeling and understanding why these frameworks like Vue and React are so popular and why they are making our development so easy, right? And now imagine that you would like to have again the same logic in pure vanilla JS, and something has changed, you would have to manipulate your DOM manually, and this is why this is so easy to do in Vue.js, because we can have any function changing this property over here, and we don't have to care about this this heading. It will automatically connect this one to the front, so this v-if directive. Now what else we can do? We can do for example v4 function, which will, as you can expect, loop through some objects. So let's do it like this. I'm gonna do v4 equals to to-do in to-dos. So we're gonna create this shortly, and I'm gonna use to-do.text to show it. Okay, and now we have to create this. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna specify to-dos. Okay, I'm gonna open it and I'm gonna create like text learn JavaScript. Next will be text learn Vue, and finally build sum up. So let's save it, and I think it is gonna throw us an error. Yeah, it's need this v key. This is something which has changed recently. Hold on. Let me check this out. This is some new concept here. So we need to add this key, because otherwise it wouldn't know which one, otherwise it will just create the list of elements here, like li for this one, but we wouldn't be able to access this from outside. So okay, it's actually it's like this: key equals to item. Okay, so now it should work, and as you can see, it automatically created this list for us. So let me know, guys, if this is clear for you. What is going by far. I know there is a lot of new information, but just for you to remember, it's for you to get some, insight, some concept on how does it work. And obviously, to get a better understanding, you should follow this tutorial yourself, and then you will be able to, just repeat it and get better understanding. But let me know whether this is clear for you so far, and if not, just let me know what isn't clear. What isn't clear, but I hope that you can already feel it, right? That before we would have to again create some loop here in logic, and then create some elements to it, and try to create some elements, some loop, create these li elements, add them to DOM, and then if we want to destroy them, then we should again remove them. And here, if we just remove certain object from here, like this one, it will immediately remove it from here. So I hope you're guys getting this one. Okay, and the last thing which I want to mention in this part are functions, because this is important, and this is obviously important part. So what we have here, okay, so we have this properties here. So now let's add something which is called computed. And then add reversed message function. and let's return something like this. Return this message. And now let's do something like this. Dot split dot reverse dot reverse and dot join. So now when we have created this function which will just return this message in a different order. And now what we can do here, we can, for example, add this paragraph, original message. So something we just did. So this is going to be our original message. And if we want to use some function, computed reversed message, we will do it like this. Oops, sorry. Message. I wanted to put it into interpolation. Oops. And let's see how it works. So I hope you can see that here we have this original message powered by MDB, and here we've got our reversed message. So it's totally reversed. And this is how we can define functions over here and use them in our template. Okay, so the last part of each component is that our styles. So you can see the styles over here. And there are a few, there's one thing you should know by now, that you can use either styles or style scoped. The difference is that this style will be available to all other all children components, while the scoped will be scoped only to this element. Okay guys, so let's move to components and let's have a look at this diagram, because this is kind of visualization which shows us what is, I believe, the most important part of Vue and most important part of all the frameworks which are using components. So here you can see that they are nested. So we have always this root element. This is our Vue component in our case. And then we can have some subcomponents underneath. And what is important here is that, for example, these two components can be like these articles over here, and these three components, they can be here. So we can reuse them as often as we like to. So let's create some component here so we could have a better understanding. So I'm gonna use this hello world. I'm just gonna remove it and I'm gonna replace it with some basic template. So as you can see, nothing fancy is here. We have just simple div with hello world. Within the script, what we are doing, we are just exporting this component, and we need to export it so other components could use it. And then we have some styles which are scoped only to this element. So once we create the script, we need to import it in our app view. So how can we do this import? Immediately after script, we're gonna write import hello world from, and then I'm just gonna say components slash hello world. Okay. So this is first thing which we have to do. Second is that we need to list all the components which we want to use. We need to list them here. So I'm gonna say hello world, and now probably we will get error that we just imported. So we registered this hello world, but we haven't used it. So yet another yet another cool thing about Vue is that it will another cool feature that allows us to keep our code clean, because in that case we don't have mess in our code, right? I mean, this compiler won't allows us to leave this kind of messy code when we import something, but we actually don't use it. Okay, so once we import it here, so it's time to use it. Let me just remove these things so it will be a little bit cleaner. And the easiest way to use it is just to, we can use it as any other HTML tag. Can't resolve components. Hold on, it should be like this. Okay, so I put the dash here, and now, as you can see, we have this component over here. And now, what is really cool, imagine that this component is a little bit more complex than just hello world. It's something more complicated, and it's something which we're gonna do in a few minutes. What we can do, we can just use it as many times as we want, and it will just recreate as many instances as we want. Okay, so I'm gonna create this agenda app now. It might be a little bit quick for you. Just let me know if this is too quick. I'm gonna slow down, but I just want to, guide you through this process, because I want to show you the key functions of Vue, like emitting the events. But in order to do that, we have to speed up a little bit to make it possible within 1 hour. So what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna start with a starting template for this application. And what we have here, guys, is, as you can see, we have this template, and this template uses a bootstrap. So you probably can already know these names like container, row, call. So this is a bootstrap. This is a bootstrap grid. We have 2 columns here. So we have this call 6, left column, right column. In the scripts, we are not doing any logic here. We are just importing this component. So you can already imagine that these are components. So we have this container, row, call, and then we are listing them on the list of components. And at the end, I just added some styles so we could see borders to our application. And this is how it looks like now. So we have left and right column, and obviously they are responsive, but they are not nesting yet. So what we would like to actually do is to make it nested one below each other. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna change this one not from call to, let's say, MD. So this is gonna be our breakpoint, MD, for the medium screen size. I wanna change this ratio to 9:3. So now it will look more like this. And when we reach this medium screen size, it will nest one under the other, below the other. Okay, so this is how we use Bootstrap. It's easy, right? I mean, you just use it. I mean, you just import Bootstrap or MD Bootstrap, and you just use it, and you don't have to take care about any classes. You just provide these attributes here, and everything works as expected. Now I'm gonna create a new event now. So sorry, not event. I'm gonna create a component now. So I'm gonna create a new file, and it's called event.vue. And this name, it's not the best name actually. It's not the best name because what I mean by event here is event in our calendar, but also in a Vue itself we have these events too. we have these events too, so it might be a little bit confusing. For now, this is an event component, so this will be like the single entry in our agenda, in our calendar, right? So event like a meeting with John. Okay, and then again, we have this template here, very, very simple so far. So we have some time and some title, and we are just exporting this. We don't have any styles here. And what we have to do is we have to now, where is it? So now we have to import this like we've been importing our hello world component. So I'm gonna import this event from components event, and I'm gonna add this here to the list. Oops, not here, here to the list of components. And then obviously I'm gonna put it somewhere here, let's say in our left column. And let's see if this works. Where it is? Hold on, I lost somewhere my window. Oh, here it is. Whoops. Come back here and let's enlarge. So we have this our event here, right? And if you still don't get what this components actually is, or actually what these are, so I like this comparison that this it's like with the object-oriented programming, we have this classes and instance of classes, right? So our class, our event description is like this stamp, right? So if we have whatever we put here, whatever logic, whatever name, whatever graphics, whatever, visualization, and so on, it's just a stamp, and it's not gonna do anything until we actually stamp it, some paper. So this stamping is actually happening here. So this is where I just put a stamp, and I can put two stamps over here, and as a result I'm creating two instances of our class. So I hope that's clear now. Okay guys, so let's move further. I'm gonna leave these two events for now, and I'm gonna remove this right column. Now, what we want to do very often is that we want to, since this event is just a stamp, it's like a template, we want to pass some data to it, right? Because we don't want to hard code this data in here. So obviously one of the event might be at 9 and the other one will be starting at 12. So we want our event to have some properties which we can change. So let's do this one now. So I'm gonna add a few props here. So props, this is the way we provide this is the way we are providing this data to our component. Hold on, let me just okay, do it like this. So these are props. So the props are so-called properties. And so these are attributes which are related to our event. So now our event has some time. We use string here. Obviously, we should use time. That would be much better. But for now, we're gonna keep it simple. So it's gonna be just a string. Then we have some title and location and description. So what we can do now is we can make it a little bit more complex. So we can do it something like this: h3 interpolation time curly brackets title h3, and this is how we can create how we can create a template for our event. Obviously, that could be much more complex, as you can imagine. But for now, let's just keep it simple. I'm gonna do the description, and that's how it is. So now obviously we have everything empty because this dash here is getting printed, and all these attributes are empty. They don't have any value yet. So how can we pass this value? Because this is something what you usually want to do. So we can do it easily like this. So open event. Now time equals to, let's say 10. Next one was title equals to, let's say breakfast with Simon. Now location, let it be lunch cafe. And what was the last one? Description? Yeah. So description equals to discuss Q2 results. Okay, let's save it. Let's check the error. Unexpected character in attribute name. Which one? Title. Oh, I didn't close this one, obviously. So let's close it. And now it's better, right? So you can see that it's already creating our event like this. And if we add some other here, let me clean it up. We have 2 events now. Okay, so now again, obviously we don't want to add them manually. So what we would like to do, we would like to specify this list of events somewhere here. And then again, in the real application, obviously we would be calling some API and getting this list in return. But what we're gonna do here, because we don't have it, because we don't have this API connected. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna paste this events events array here, right? So we have this events defined here. Obviously, what would normally happen here is that these events would be coming from an API call, but for now we are just, we are just mocking this up. So assume that we just called an API and we got the list of these events. And now what we have to do, we have to obviously write them here. So what we want to do, we want to go through the loop of this array, and we want to, for each entry in the array we want to create. So then again, in JavaScript, we would have to go with some loops and then DOM adjustment. While here, what we're gonna do, we're gonna use v-for loop. So how it looks like, we're gonna have event, and we're gonna say v-for equals to event in events. Now, next one is time equals to event time. So now we are assigning all the attributes. Title equals to event title. Then we have location equals to event location, and then we have description, which equals to event dot description. Okay, and then we will do it like this. And obviously we're gonna get this error because of v bind key. And this is another interesting option is this because we have this so-called strict mode entered. It doesn't allow us to do it without v key. Technically we could do it, but then problem would be like this. Let me just quickly fix it. Adding this v key to it. And how are we gonna do that? We're gonna do it in that way that we're gonna change our v4 to something like this: v4 event, comma, index in event. So it will create this auto-incremented index, which will be incrementing every time we are looping. So now, as you can see, these data, which are here, are getting populated over here. And I have a Chrome extension here for Vue, which allows us to browse these components, as you can see. And here, as you can see, we have this event with this key auto-incremented value. So we technically could skip this key. I'm not even sure whether they didn't make it mandatory now, but in the past there was option to skip it, but then we wouldn't have this key. So it will be very difficult to, for example, remove number 3, right? Because we wouldn't know how to access it. So that's why it's really makes sense to use these keys, as this is making it very, very, very easy to operate, to change something in a future. So what we're gonna do now, we're just gonna add this extra property, this index property, to our event properties, to props. So I'm gonna add index type, and it's gonna be number. By the way, I'm not sure why it's not doing this indents automatically. Okay, anyway. Okay, guys. So now next thing which we want to do in our app is we want to add some icons to make it look a little bit better. So I'm gonna import this MDB badge and MDB icon here. And what I want to do is I want to add these components here, list them obviously, and we're gonna change a template of our event to something like this. Now we have a little bit, we have this more HTML here. Obviously we could work on make it smaller, but as for now, it's good as it looks like, and you can see that we changed the way it looks like this. So we change the order. We have this gray area for description. We add this icon for the location here. So it looks a little bit better than it used to look few minutes before. But what is wrong now is that here, for example, and here we don't have a description, but we're still rendering this piece of code. So we want to get rid of it. So we want to do this rendering conditional. So how can we do that? We can use v-if directive. So for example, this location, we want to do this paragraph conditional. So we can do like v-if equals to false. And now, as you can see, this icon and the location is gone. But obviously, we don't want to hard code it. We want to add logic. Logic to this one. So we will check for our property here. And now, as you can see, whenever we have a location and it's not empty, we have this icon, and when it's empty, it's simply gone. And the same, we want to do exactly the same with our description. So we're gonna use this if description over here. And now if we don't have this description, it's simply gonna go. Okay, now just for your information, we obviously can use if else statements. So I'm gonna just show you this here, for example. So let me put it here. So we have this if, and if this is true, then this is gonna be rendered. If otherwise, this is the else. So we have this else option. So this is like false. When I change it to true, then this one will get applicable. See? So they are working in pairs, and we can have else if, so more complex one. So we have like this true. So we're gonna see A now. And if we're gonna make it to false, and then we're gonna make it this one to true, then we're gonna see B. And if we're gonna make all of them false, then we will end up with this one, not ABC. And my question to you guys is, what's gonna happen if I'm gonna put all true here? So what's gonna be the answer? Let me know in comments. Okay, so now let's move to the next and one of the last subjects for today, because we are almost done with our application. What we want to do, we want to emit some events, and I'm gonna explain it to you shortly. For now, let me just update this template. What I'm gonna add here is I've added this. Oh, I don't need these CSS styles anymore. I'm gonna get rid of them. So what I did, oops, I didn't. Oh, I need to add these icons here as well because I want to use them. So I'm gonna add them here, and I'm gonna add them here. Okay, and now finally, yeah. So what I did here, I just add this placeholder for the schedule. And there are two interesting things here. So first of all, we have a weather. So this is something which in the future we're gonna connect this one to API. So we're gonna see how we can use API in Vue.js, and this will help us to call a real API and see how we can handle this in Vue. But we also added this counter here, which is actually counting. So when we're gonna add removal of this event, it should update automatically. Okay, so now what we have to do, is we need to send events between these components. So as you can see, this is a component here, and this minus icon over here is part of this event component, but the list of all the events is in our app component, right? So this is this is a complicated situation, because when we click on this icon here, we need to send event from event component to our app component, and this app component should catch it and remove this event from the list. So I hope you understand this one. So let's start with our event. So we have this minus over here, and we want to call function when this is gonna happen. So let's first create let's create this function here. So I'm gonna add this method here. So after our data, hold on. Let's start with up. So I'm gonna add here after data. I want to add methods, and I want to handle handle delete event. So when we receive this handle delete, I'm gonna get a index of the event which we want to delete, and I'm gonna use splice to remove this event from this array. Now we have to now what we have to do is we have to emit this event from this event. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna add method here. So we have components, props, and methods. And we're gonna add call to this method on our icon here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say add click call on delete. And finally, what we have to do is here in our event, we have to add this handle add delete equals to handle delete. And I'm going to show you this on a picture shortly. Let's see if this works fine. So yeah, as you can see, when I click on the minus icon, it's removing this from list, and look at this number, it's decreasing, right? So click, it's removing. So now let's see what's actually going on. So this is what you've seen in the code, right? When I click on this minus icon, it's triggering this piece of code. So add click native call delete function on delete. This on delete function is still within our event component, right? And this is function like you would be doing on click in regular JS, right? So you have this on delete, and this is emitting event, and this event name is called delete, and the attribute and the argument is index. So since I clicked, for example, on the call with HRs, which is number 2, right? This is 0, 1, 2. So it will have event and emit with name delete and the value 2. Now in app component, we have this listener here. So this event knows that it can expect this called delete event. It's catching this up and it's invoking this function handle delete, which is defined in the script area. And when it's receive it, it's basically updating our array, and it's removing. And then again, because we are using interpolation, it's automatically removed from front end as well. So I hope this is clear. I mean, it's quite complex flow, but I hope you get it, right? So we have template, event template, then functions, then app template and functions. Okay, guys. And finally, last thing which we're gonna do in just a couple of minutes, I think not more than 5, we're gonna add option to add new events to our list. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna add few more components which are for modals. So I'm gonna use this. So it's like MDB modal header, model title, model body, and model footer, and you're gonna see where they are, and I'm gonna add this here. So let me just do it like that, and I'm gonna add some one more data here, some variable model set to false. So we don't want our model to be visible by default, and I'm gonna add this model body here. So here you can see we have this this model. So this is model, header, body, footer, and you're gonna see this very shortly. And here we want to invoke this model on this click on this button. So when this happens, we're not gonna call a function. What we're gonna do, we're gonna change value of this model variable which we just created to true. Mixed space is 767778. Okay, 767778. So there are some spaces here, and now it's working. And now when we click on this event, it is showing us model. And when we click here, you can see that in this model, when we click, it's just changing this value to false. So again, just by changing the value of the variable, because of the interpolation, it's automatically adjusting the front of our page. Okay, so we have this model. So the very last step in this tutorial is to add form to our model. So we want to add a small form, so we will be able to add new events, some date, some title, and so on and so on. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna again import some extra components. So I'm gonna add input and text area. There's two which we're gonna use in our project. So here and here, as you already know. Okay, and now I'm gonna add some new value here, new values. There's gonna be an empty array, and you're gonna see why I need it in a second. Now I'm gonna change this model body here, which is now just text, to something a little bit more sophisticated. So this is form. By the way, this code obviously is available for you in the lesson link. So now, if you see, we have this form over here, right? So we have this form. Now, what we have to do, we have to handle this input. So every time we submit this one, we want to do something with it. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add function which is called handle input. So we have functions here. So we have handle delete. So now I'm gonna add handle input, and what this does, and actually looks by yourself what it's doing. So I'm gonna open console here. Okay, and when I start typing something here, you can see it's updating this this array which we create new values with this key value pairs, right? So we have this time 12:30. So if I'm gonna remove it, it's updating. If I'm gonna add location like New York and some description here, so it's creating an object for me, right? So now I have this temporary array which keeps a new event for me, so it has everything in it. So it has time, title, location, and so on. Obviously, we don't want to. We don't do it to console log it. So I'm gonna remove it. What we want to do with it. What we want to do with it is actually we want to add this to our array of events. So I'm gonna add this last function, which is called add event. So what this is doing, it's taking these values from this temporary array, right? So time, title, and so on, and it's pushing this as a new object to our events table. So to this one, it's pushing new object to this one. So now the last thing we want to do is we want to call this function add event when user submit. So this is the submit button. So we want to on this click, we want to add this to the list. So what we have to do, you already know, this is this button add, and we want to just do add click native equals to add event, and this should work. Let's have a look at this one. Let me refresh, close the console, open this one up, and let's do 12:30 briefing, location New York, some description. Oops, it does not gonna work. Oh, it works. I just messed up here because I closed this one unnecessary, right? So 2, right? So these events are here and we can get rid of them. And then again, when we refresh, we are get back to the normal. So, oops, title, location, description, and add, and here we are. Okay, guys, voila, we are done. I hope it wasn't too much. I hope it wasn't too intensive. Let me know, what do you think? I was a little bit fast, but I wanted to give you a nice overview of how does it feel to use Vue, how it's actually working. And I hope I did it. I mean, I hope I gave you this this good feeling, this good starting point. Obviously, it requires some time to get familiar with all this, with all the not complexity, but I would say rather just syntax and the way with working with this. So I strongly encourage you to do this or other tutorials. To put your hands on, but I hope you're gonna like it. I mean, I'm pretty sure you're gonna like it. I mean, in compared to any other apps, just using this, it's extremely easy. It allows you to keep everything clear, right? I mean, you just, although we are mixing this, template and script and styles into one file, but at the end we have really nice separation of our logic and of our, front view, front layer. So we are not messing up with DOM, right? We are minimizing the risk that that one function or two functions at the same time will try to change these different elements, and we end up removing them and adding and removing and so on. So yeah, and once you just you connect your data model to your front end, you don't have to care about the front end anymore, right? I mean, you just update it and it will work. And so this is extremely cool and extremely exciting about using this kind of frameworks and libraries. So there are some questions, so let me just go through them, and if you have any other extra questions, just let me know. And let me just remind you then, in next week we're gonna talk about React. So we're gonna do pretty much the same application but using React. So you're gonna see already the difference between Vue and React. And finally we're gonna go with Angular, so you will have the comparison between three of them, and so how they work, what are the differences, and how they behave. Okay, so the question is from Vladimir, but should it not be empty at the beginning? What you are asking, Vladimir? What shouldn't be empty? I mean, the list of events, or what? Because I'm not sure. And I'm looking for other questions. Why do write method computed and not two methods? Okay, so for the methods, methods are like functions. I mean, like typical functions. So we usually put their at least some basic functions. So it will be evaluated only when you call it, right? So especially when you it will just start doing its job when you call it explicitly. And computed are first of all, they are creating property, because when you start your page, it will just execute them, and it will turn them into properties. So the point here is that when you want to have you don't really use these computed methods. You don't call them with parameters, so they are not that kind of dynamic. The difference is kind of small, but it's crucial when it comes to usage. And there are small differences. I mean, computed is more sophisticated use case, and you want to do it when you know that you're doing this on purpose. Usually the methods is the place where you want to put your logic, right? So the computed is kind of unchangeable. So you just do it when you want to prepare this, when you kind of create functions which are constant to some extent, like some filters and so on. So these computed values are very valuable for manipulating data that exists already on your view. So when you want to transform, when you want to filter them, you use computed, and they are cached, so they are faster. So yeah, there are technical differences. Basically, you would go with methods, and yeah, when you just get more advanced, it would just go for computed. Vladimir, the list of events. Yeah, I mean, technically, when we're gonna be building a real application, we're gonna have an API with the list of event. We're probably gonna have some date picker here, and when we switch the date to today, it's gonna what it's gonna do is gonna call API with the date, and in return you're gonna get a list of the events. So yeah, I mean, technically it could be empty array here. Obviously we could get rid of it, this starting value. I just wanted to keep something here. So this is so-called mocking, right? We are not using the real data. We are just using some false data here. And obviously we could just put it as an empty array, but then that wouldn't look good, and it will be more difficult to create, you know, this one, and we would have to add something here to work on that. So it's just more handy to have these default values, because then we can see how they are working. But in the real app, obviously this data would come from an API. So yeah. Okay. There's a question from Zine. Does that v-true or v-for work for React? Well, yeah, I mean, not technically, because it's not called v there. It uses different names. But technically you can do the same. It's just using different operators. If you want to check this, just go to mdb.education, and then once you get there, you can go to React tutorial. So if you go here, and you will get the same tutorial, but the same app, exactly the same app, but built with React. So you can compare it. So if you want to see, let's see, loop and iterators and conditional rendering. So you are using more like you are using something like that. So you can use loop functions. You can use map, which is more common, right? So you just do this map event, and then you are mapping this. Similar to what we just discussed, you need a key. So you need this individual ID, and then you are doing this like that. So this is a React version for this map, or for looping, and for the conditional, this will look like this, right? So this props location. So pretty much, I mean, obviously it exists there. It's just that this this logic. I mean, it just syntax is different, but technically it's you can do exactly the same with React. It will be just different syntax, and that's what we're gonna see next week on Tuesday as well. So if you wanna see how it works, then yeah, I just encourage you to join us in a week. Okay, guys, let me know if you have any other questions. Today it took us a little bit longer, like 1 hour and 10 minutes for this coding part, but I hope that it was worth it, and that that you got a lot of insight, which gives you this good feeling on how to use these different functions and properties. So you built a shopping cart app using Vue. I'm not building, but if you're asking if that possible, obviously it is. I mean, yeah, technically, obviously it is, right? So this is what you usually do, right? I mean, when you create your app, you have this front-end layer, which can be like anything from JavaScript, anything from jQuery, anything from React, Angular, and then you have your backend part. So when you have it like this, it's very, very easy to replace your front-end layer with something else. I mean, if you don't like Vue, then you can just switch to React whatsoever. But technically, yeah, I mean, there is this awesome tool, Vue Storefront, guys. This is open source. E-commerce platform, totally built on Vue, and it's headless, which is also awesome. And it's PWA, it's progressive web app, so it can be installed like an app on your phone. So, and it's totally built with Vue. So yeah, I mean, you can have really complex and interesting project built just with Vue. And yeah, I mean, it's mature, it's awesome, it's developing very fast, it's very robust, and yeah, I mean, I really encourage you. I think that this is a great entry point for any developers. I mean, after JavaScript, after HTML, CSS, Vue has the lowest entry point, the easiest entry point, for understanding. And once you get familiar with Vue, I mean, when you just switch to React and Angular, you're gonna see so many similarities that you're gonna pick them up very, very easily. So, okay, guys. So if there are no further question, just let me quickly remind you that whatever we discussed here today, it's available for you in a written form of this tutorial. So you can just go there. Can you integrate it with Stripe payment API? Obviously you can. That's one of the common use case. So yeah. Now, if you want to subscribe for future webinars, just go there. If you haven't seen our previous webinars, you can always watch them recorded on our YouTube page. And finally, we have our Facebook group when we discuss different subjects, when we help each other with learning programming. So I encourage you to join this group. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask them there. So thank you for today. Thank you for watching. And we're going to see each other next week. When we're gonna do pretty much the same, but using React. So I think that's gonna be very, very interesting to build this app, but this time using React. So thanks for watching, and see you next week, the same place, the same time. So thank you guys. If you like it, please don't forget to subscribe. Please don't forget to like it. This will just increase visibility for these tutorials for others, so others could also benefit from it. Thanks for watching, and take care.